Hi guys, it's Blackie from Shaman's Forge Bushcraft. Today I'd like to talk about something that I think I've overstepped a little bit, and that was I talked about blankets not long ago, and that was a very successful video series on blanket wisdom and how blankets are varied from size, thickness, usage, etc. I'd like to try to do that today for sleeping bags because there's a big difference in sleeping bags as well. First, I'd like to say a thank you. One of my subscribers, Lurch Monster, sent me a modern camo canteen cover. I had mentioned in my canteen video that I had the old desert version, and that I'd like to have the modern version, and he was kind enough to box one up and ship it to me. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. Now, sleeping bags are, everyone knows, it's a bag. It's a blanket with a zipper that the excess material has been removed. There are square bags, and then there are mummy bags. Mummy bags conserve weight and bulk, and at the same time, they put the maximum amount on you. But when you go to buy a sleeping bag, you're going to have a number, and it's going to say this bag is rated to 20 below or whatever. Baloney. Okay, like I said in the blanket video, blankets, sleeping bags, ultimately do not generate any heat. We generate the heat. So, when a bag is rated for a certain temperature, it's a rough idea. Do not think it means it literally. Now, I am a very warm sleeper. I can typically go with just a light blanket down into the 50s. A good friend of mine, when it hits 75 degrees, she starts wearing a sweater here in the South because she's cold, no matter what the conditions, below 80 degrees. So she would need a much bigger, thicker sleeping bag than I would need for the same appropriate temperature. So, first let's dispense with ratings. Ratings are there to give you a rough idea, but only you, your sleep pattern, will tell you what is actually working for you. Plus, you augment it. What are you wearing? When it says it's rated down to 40 degrees, does that mean you in the bag butt naked? Or you in the bag wearing appropriate clothing for 40 degrees? See, there's the difference. So any of these bags can be augmented warmer to take you to a lower temperature by simply adding more clothing on your end. For example, I can take a bag that's only rated down to 50 degrees. If I wear polypro long handles underneath and go to bed with that with a toboggan on, I can probably take it down into the upper 30s because the clothing is going to add several degrees of temperature to me. Thus, it adds more to the bag. It becomes a point of weight, bulk, and what you need for your application. Now, let's start with the small. I've already talked about in the blanket video of a fleece blanket with a zipper all the way around it. Those are good for a light tromping around and an army blanket, etc. But for a small sleeping bag, we need to look at something that's got a little more heft to it. Now, this is just a lightweight patrol bag. Very similar to the military type patrol bags that you're going to find on the surplus market and in all your backpacking shops, things like that. Hold on a minute. Wait till it gets down the road or you'll never hear me. Okay. So, this bag is light. It's got a zipper that runs full length, and it's a mummy bag with a hood that can be pulled up tight around your head. This is to conserve heat. Now, this bag is rated down to 50s. If I was in this butt naked, probably the 60s is where I'd be comfortable with. Wearing appropriate clothing, I can take it to the 50s and maybe even a little lower. If I add a hard shell over it, I'll increase the temperature. And here's why. You cannot help but sweat out of your pores up to a quart of water a day, sometimes more. So if you got into a sleeping bag that had a true vapor barrier all the way around it, like a trash bag, you're going to wet the bag because you're the source of moist air, and it's going to dampen your bag. That first night, it's not going to be a big deal. But if you cannot dry your bag the next day, the next night the bag's wet, you're cold. That's the reason some people on some of these campouts, they'll decide to take a thermal blanket and put over it or wrap it up, or I'll wrap it around me and I'll get inside of it, or I'll pull a trash bag over 3/4 of it, and then they wonder why the next night they're colder. The bag's damp. So a bag must allow that warm, moist air to come out of it without allowing just any little old breeze or whatever to come through it. Being in the wind reduces a bag's effectiveness greatly. So if I was to have a more than adequate bag, but I was to go out here and lay on a slab of concrete in a 10-mile-an-hour wind, I'll get cold. Because as that microclimate that I talked about, that I've generated around my body, is being carried away by the wind, I'm having to replace it. So I'm burning energy and I'll run out of fuel. Thus, I get cold. Now, a bag that has a hood that you can pull down tight is a big advantage because the bulk of your heat loss is going to be through your head. By putting a hood on that can come over the top and you can draw it up around your shoulders to limit the heat loss around your face, you trap more air in the bag, more warmth in the bag. I recommend that for any of these bags. Always look for a hood that you can pull up tight. Most times you won't use it. Keep it loose. But when you do need it, use it. As I tell people, if you wake up cold, cover your head first. 80% of your body heat's being lost out of that head. Don't cover up your head with the blanket because then your breath is trapped in the bag and you're wetting the bag. Keep it where your breath goes outside the bag. Now this is a light patrol bag. I've showed it in one of my other videos. It compresses down to this size. This is my summertime bag that I carry 99% of the time. And in my slash camp video, I showed you this bag, what it looks like compressed. This is my summertime bag. Sometimes spring, a little bit of fall. This is it. Now, out there you're also going to have commercial bags. And you're going to see this type of bag. This is a standard commercial bag that you'll buy at Walmart or something like that. It's meant to go toward the backpacking crowd and etc. You notice it's nice and wide. It has a center zipper running down it with a big old hood and etc. Now, the material that is used in these is not very compressible. So the bag is about this big whenever it's fully compressed. Now you can put it in a compression sack and bring it on down in size, but the loft of the material will suffer. Now, loft. You'll see this mentioned a lot with sleeping bags. Loft is how tall the material is sitting on a flat table or something with nothing in it. How fluffy is it? Is a better way to look at it. Now, down bags, feather bags, and things allow you to shake them up and restore the loft. They'll puff up. Therefore, they trap more heat. A silk type sleeping bag that's got silk baffles in it, when you fluff it up, will capture more heat. And therefore, you've inflated your bag and it captures more, it does more, it goes to a better temperature rating. Because, as I said, we generate the heat. All this bag is going to do is catch it. But it has to do a tough job. It has to catch the heat, let the moisture out, and not let any moisture back in. That's a pretty good challenge. Now, these type bags are going to run at Walmart. I think I paid $25 for this. This is a good slumber bag. This is a good bag for car camping. This is a good bag for I'm going to an established camp or just to keep at the house when the neighborhood kids are all doing a sleepover, throw it on the floor. It's not a bad bag, but it's bulky. It also has the problem of it's got that silky type outer cover that'd be very easy in this environment to snag, tear up, and etc. And once it's wet, it's wet. It's going to be very, very difficult to dry in the field and get it back into a dry state so we can use it tomorrow night. These bags that I'm talking about are readily available. You can pick them up anywhere. And they do a decent job. But when you're trying to develop your bag pack, that's what I call it. I've talked about in other videos of having multiple layers or overlapping protection. When I do that, I want a bag that's going to handle me down to, say, 55. In my area, that's 8 months of the year will be above 55. So that bag will be my primary. Buy a good bag for that, because it's going to get a lot of wear and tear. It's going to be your go-to bag, so use it. Now, from 55 down to 30, I have another bag. And for even further yet, I have another one. And one of my tried and true friends I'm about to show you. This is Big Blue. I bought Big Blue in 1989 from Cabela's, I think it was. It is a very high loft, fluffy bag that's rated down to 20 below zero. I think I paid $90 for it back in those days. It has a waterproof outer shell that allows moisture to come out, but it will bead water in case it gets wet. It's designed for snow country and things like that. The bag weighs 6 pounds, but I have personally been in this thing down to zero and never, ever been cold, because I wear adequate clothing to bed when I'm using it. It's got a draft tube which protects air from coming around the zipper. It's got a high loft. I think this thing fluffed up on a table is 6 inches thick, just sitting there all by itself. The green bag I showed you is probably like 3 inches thick, and the first bag I showed you is maybe 2 inches of loft. So that gives you a relative idea how thick these bags are. This is my go-to bag in the dead of winter when I want to make sure I am not going to be cold. Now, you're beginning to see the problem. One bag doesn't do it. If I have only one bag and I choose this bag, 8 months out of the year, it's too much bag. I'll be sweating in this thing. Even laid open, I'll just barely be able to cover my feet up with it. I'll sweat in this bag in my climate because I'm a warm sleeper. Now, the second bag I showed you, the one I picked up at Walmart, would handle most of my camping needs, but it's bulky, it's heavy, relatively, and on those really cold days, it wouldn't fit. It wouldn't handle it. Even with me wearing my proper clothing and long handles and everything, I'd get cold in that bag down in 18, 20 degrees. It's just not thick enough, not enough loft to catch my heat and insulate me from the outside environment. Thus, Big Blue. I use layers. And that's what you're going to have to do to cover all your environments. As I understand it, out in the desert, it's hot during the day and the nights can drop down below freezing. So you'd need a bag that could handle that kind of cold with your comfort level. Now, Blackie, how do you do this? How do you pick a bag that's going to make you comfortable? That's the hard question. Because what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to try out bags. I know, that sucks. Either find friends that have bags and let them, get them to let you borrow one. Try it out on your back porch. Go out in your backyard during the winter. Spend the night. Find out what your comfort level is with a given bag for your environment. Now, for my best case, I found that a couple of different bags served the purpose and would completely cover me. One second. Farmer checking his fields. Okay. But there is an alternative to this, and that's what I'm going to show you next. There is a one system you can pick up that'll cover all of this. One bag system. Stick with me. I'll show it to you in just a minute.